Hello and welcome to the Moncast. As always, I'm Stevie, and this episode I'm joined by Kyle from the Victory Road podcast.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Pretty good after a few hiccups of trying to get this thing started.
Only a few. It took like 20 minutes.
I mean, we set a time for 9 o'clock and it's 9:07, so technically only 7 minutes went by.
True, we're only 7 minutes late. And I've not done this before, but usually I just have guests on and go like, here's a guest. But since we don't really know anything about you and I don't know anything, what's your experience with Pokemon and Digimon before this?
I grew up watching them when they first aired. Obviously, Pokemon came first, and then I remember seeing Digimon thinking it was a Pokemon spin-off or something like that. I was wrong. I was like, why are these creatures talking? This is weird. I'm not used to this, but eventually I started really digging into Digimon. And I'm actually looking forward to this because I think Adventures 2 and the Johto seasons were like my favorites. So I'm super excited about this one. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. And so now me and one of my friends, we decided to start up our own Pokemon podcast called Victory Road Pod, where we just talk here in the Ash Bash series, where we basically give a commentary back to the original anime, at least, because that's on Netflix for now. And I don't know. It's fun, you know, and it wasn't actually called the Ash Bash series. We weren't sure what we were calling it. And then it kind of just happened. We were just like, so tired of just bashing Ash. And we're like, oh my gosh, the Ash Bash series. That's what we're going to call it.
Yeah. Titles sort of come up from themselves usually.
Oh, yeah.
And the more puns and rhyming things, the better.
Oh, definitely. So sometimes either we're bashing Ash or we're throwing an actual bash, like a party. So for Ash, because he did something good. So, I mean, it works both ways.
It's true. I mean, we tend to do more bashing than partying when it comes to Ash on this one.
Oh, yeah.
And we've both listened to like at least one episode of each other's podcasts.
Yep.
And I was very impressed by your stuff.
Oh, well, thank you. And I gotta say, I loved your episode that I watched too.
Oh, nice. I'm surprised you watched it since it's audio only, but still.
You got me there. No, yeah, I really dug the episode. I like the form. It's different. I've never actually seen a Pokemon Digimon thing, so.
Yeah, I don't know if there was anyone else that tried a similar thing before we did it. It's funny when people come up with a similar idea and we're just like, we're kind of already doing that, guys.
Right? Yeah. I can say we kind of did something, but not exact. I think it was like April Fool's Day of 2017. We had two of our friends take over, and I use air quotes around that because they didn't really, but we pretend that they took over the show and they started talking about Digimon instead of Pokemon.
Yeah, April Fool's.
We did Yu-Gi-Oh!
Did Yu-Gi-Oh! As well. Nice.
Yes.
We missed out on April Fool's this year because we had a sort of temporary hiatus, but next year means we get to do a double April Fool's, I guess.
Oh, fun.
I need to come up with an idea for that. Let's see, the first year we did April Fool's, we ended up watching Yokai Watch.
Nice.
And just pretending it was an episode of Pokemon. And then just fabricated a whole episode of Digimon to match it up with.
Nice.
Oh, that's fun. Anyway, though, let's get on to these new episodes.
Yeah.
The current score is actually 10-6 to Pokemon. And this time we'll be discussing the 17th episodes, Ghost of a Chance, and Tanks a Lot. So let's start off with Tanks a Lot. It starts off with Ash and Co. Basically, we call them Ash and Co. because it's usually just about Ash and whoever he's with.
Yeah.
So Co is Brock and Misty this time still, and they are just relaxing under a tree with Togepi and Pikachu all snoozing as well. Until Togepi wakes up and goes to bother Pikachu and starts wandering off and being generally cute, as usual. And from there, it basically pans across to Team Rocket, who are, making the latest scheme, which at the moment is just getting a giant tank, which is an interesting idea for, I guess, stealing things.
Yeah, I'll give them props for originality.
Yeah, it's definitely an original way of robbing people.
Yeah, it's not a giant hole.
We'll get to the giant holes later, though.
Yes, we will.
And we also see some shots of the Pokemon of the episode, which is Sentret this time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of Sentret in the episode, which is certainly different because more often than not, there's only one of the filler Pokemon. But we have like a whole, I guess, colony, if that's a word for it.
Yeah, I found it weird though. Like none of them were Furrets. Like they were all Sentrets.
Yeah, that is interesting actually. That there wasn't like even a head Furret or something. They were just all Sentret.
Yeah, like the Ultrat that looked like it was in charge, kind of. That was motherly-like almost. Kind of. I was like, really? You didn't evolve into a Furret? Okay.
No, I think they're just like introducing one Pokemon at a time.
Yeah.
Or learning to draw
sense.
and animate one new Pokemon at a time. But I really like the Sentret, by the way. They are very cute.
Oh, yeah. Sentrets are very cute. Furret's one of my top 5 Johto Pokemon, so.
Ah, nice. Mm-hmm. Shame that they weren't in the episode then.
Right?
But Sentret says Sentret a lot, because that's all they say. And Team Rocket, going back to them, they're just not making a tank, they have bought or made their own tank just off on the sidelines, which they creatively call the Arbo tank because it's shaped like an Arbok.
Which actually isn't that bad of a name.
It could be worse. I mean,
exactly.
Although I'm struggling to think of anything worse, actually.
You could have just called it a tank.
A tank. True. That would be very lazy, though. Not in line with Team Rocket at all.
Or the Arbok 9000.
Or the 9001. And this Arbo tank is genuinely massive. It's like the size of some of the cliff faces around the forest that they're in. And they just jettison off in the tank and just stumble across Ash and Co. because Ash and Co. are always there wherever Team Rocket is.
Yeah, it's kind of weird like that.
And I'm just going to assume at this point they have some sort of tracker on him. Otherwise, they're just very, very lucky. I'm
surprised they don't get like a restraining order or something.
I don't know if the Pokemon legal system's that complex.
I mean, if there's a police station, I mean...
But the police officers are all identical and have the exact same name. Maybe there is just one police officer for the whole region that just moves around with them.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll never know. I mean, we don't really see them doing much policing, honestly. It's
you're right.
It's kind of just like they are just there to tell off Team Rocket, I guess. So Team Rocket find Ash and Co. And they soon realize that a tank is not the best stealth machine to use for robbing people, and just leave it behind to try and sneak up and on the twerps. And so while they're doing this, Sentret, or one of these Sentret, heads over to Ash and Co. and starts poking Ash, trying to wake him up. And word of warning, my memory is very bad, so I tend to mix up the orders of events, so I don't know if this is actually the order it came in.
Well, right before that, Togepi and younger Sentret were playing around and they were rolling down a hill, and then
that came first.
And then as they roll off of a cliff, or they jumped off a cliff or something like that, they land into the Arbo tank and the hatch just closes. And then Meowth's like, "Did you guys hear something?" I'm like, "No, I don't. Wait, maybe. Yeah, I think I did." And then you see Togepi and Sentret just playing in the control room, jumping up and down on the controls, and then they blame James like, "Didn't you put the parking brake on that thing?"
Because Togepi immediately finds just the accelerator lever.
Yeah.
And they just jet away in the tank. And just runaway tank. That's basically the episode. Goes from there.
Too much. So Misty's the first one to wake up, starts looking for Togepi, and there's a Sentret that starts poking Ash, and Ash thinks it's Pikachu. Now, while this is going on, Misty's still looking for Togepi, and I'm like, she never once bothered to look in the direction that Togepi was originally in. Like, she's looking off to the left. Togepi was on the right by Ash and Pikachu. She never bothers to look over there or even bother to see the Sentret poking Ash the entire time. So I was like, really? Really?
She's just a little bit oblivious.
Yeah. I'll chalk it up to the fact that she's just woken up, still maybe a little droggy.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, it can't be a comfortable sleep either, just literally on the ground under a tree.
Yeah.
And Sentret just starts trying to convey to Ash and Co. what the problem is, which is that they've lost a Sentret. And they, of course, don't speak Pokemon, and they don't have the Meowth to translate.
Right.
But Brock, being the great Pokemon breeder he is, manages to figure out that Sentret's lost something.
And so then there's a huge explosion, and they look over. Now, this was another thing I found to be kind of funny, was Sentret kind of stands up on its tail to see what's going on. And they're like, oh, that's a great idea. And they're just kneeling or sitting down on the ground. I'm like, if you guys stand up, you will be taller than the Centret.
Yeah, that would require undermining the Centret, though.
I know. You want to show off the skills of the Centret and show that it can be a good lookout as it stands up on its tail, which is kind of cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
It is kind of undermined by the fact that the kids could literally stand up and be taller than it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so they hear the explosion in the distance because the Arbo tank is running away and has 2 Pokemon trapped inside of it. And they start chasing after it, of course, because they need to find out what's going on and where the hell Togepi's ended up. And why do I take such bad notes?
I love how, like, when Ash and company are just running down the Valleyway, the Ash is like, oh, this looks like something Team Rocket would do. And, like, right there's Team Rocket coming up on the other side of the Valleyway. And they're like, oh, hey, it's Team Rocket.
They literally just catch up with each other, chasing after the exact same thing. Now, they do have some good comedic moments in this one.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite a lot of them, actually. So Team Rocket are basically, they're pretty upset because the tank that they spent tons of money on is just careening away from them, being piloted by a baby egg and a squirrel. And there's this whole bit with Team Rocket just moaning about how they've all saved up the life savings for it, and then James has spent it all, which I found quite funny.
Yeah, and Jessie barely saved up for it at all.
She cut down on the caviar, that's the main thing. Yeah.
Although, I find it funny though, like, if you're watching it, the scene where she's, like, having her dinner or whatever, she's holding a glass of wine.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, they kept that in. Okay.
Interesting. But then Brock remembers that he has an Onix, and that giant rock snakes tend to be the best solution to most problems in the Pokemon world. And so he releases Onix. Sorry, what's that?
No, I was just going to say, this was actually one of my favorite parts of the entire episode, was just the fact that Brock was smart and used his Onix. Yeah,
it was really good. And usually Brock and Misty don't use the Pokemon very much.
Yeah.
So sending out the giant rock snake as a mode of transport is really good. Plus Onix is just a cool Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
It's a giant rock snake. I mean, you don't get much cooler than that.
You really don't.
So they all start chasing after it, and they soon realize that they need to come up with some sort of game plan to actually stop this tank, because it literally has boxing gloves so it can punch through solid rock to keep going.
And there's like a drill coming, and a whole bunch of other features we'll soon describe soon.
It has pretty much every sort of feature that it could possibly need.
Yes, it really does.
Getting away from them.
Except for apparently an emergency brake.
I mean, like I said, it's being piloted by a baby egg and a squirrel, so...
Yeah.
I don't ask them have the driver's license.
I love how Brock comes up with, like, this entire military-like plan to just take down... Like, everyone's dressed up in military uniforms. I'm like, really? You guys had time to dress up in military uniforms for this instead of, just actually talking about it and getting... But obviously, it's an anime. It's what they do. I'm not going to get too into that, but I gotta say his plan was actually pretty solid. I mean, for the most part.
And
dig a hole with a bunch of rocks to water it down so it's mud, and then let the Arbo tank fall into the hole. I mean, get stuck in the mud. Yeah. Although when they're filling it up with water and Misty's using all of her Pokemon and whatnot, like, they're standing in the path of the Arbo tank. Why didn't they just move off to another side of the hole where they're not in front of the path of the tank and you can still fill it up? Like, it's a giant hole. You could have filled it up from any angle, and you're just filling it up in the one spot where you know you will be run over.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of didn't question that because I was questioning the physics of how a Squirtle can produce that much water. Because where does it come from?
Yeah, that and an alien starfish. I mean,
starfish, and then just a tadpole, who all can just carry infinite supplies of water, apparently.
Although, shame on Misty for assuming Psyduck would actually help.
Psyduck never helps. It just looks confused.
No.
But this plan is actually pretty effective, because the Arbo tank careens straight into there and gets stuck in the mud.
Yep. And then Ash and Pikachu are trying to climb into the tank to rescue everyone, but then... What is it? I think Centric gets caught in the wires and starts struggling around. And for some reason, this reactivates the Arbo tank to get out. And it gets back up onto its normal side 'cause it had been tipped over. And so Pikachu falls down the hole and is now stuck with everyone else. And then Ash doesn't make it in, but then it uses like a rocket launcher and creates like a very perfect ramp out of the hole.
Yes, it does.
And it just goes right back on up. And then Team Rocket shows up as magicians and they're like, we're about to make this Arbo tank disappear. And so they do their whole thing. And then they're like, 1, 2, 3, and then it just disappears. And they're like, what? And then they get up closer and like, oh, you guys just put it in another hole. I'm like, we already tried that. And they're like, no. This is the best hole. We did a lot of research, excavation, and like they all got like these beards on, making it seem like they're wise old men, even Jesse, which was a little weird, but okay. And actually Meowth ends up getting into the Arbo tank and sees that Pikachu, Togepi, and Sentret are now tangled in the wires, and I don't know how Pikachu managed to do that, but you know. And so now the Arbo tank releases its most ridiculous feature, a springboard on the bottom side, so it now just hops.
Just a giant.
I was like, really? So now it's like hopping away, and like I'm laughing very hard, by the way, just at this whole ridiculousness. But it's a good laughter. I'm enjoying it.
It's very entertaining. Just this tank constantly developing new features.
It is, yes.
There's just like nothing it can't do. And the tank gets away again. So they have to come up with a whole new plan. This time with Team Rocket involved as well. So they've now both joined forces to try and stop this tank. And I like it when Team Rocket does join in with Ash and Co. Because it's fun when it happens. Usually they just battle each other and it's kind of boring. But for once they're actually having to cooperate, at least to a certain extent. Because Brock's plan is to essentially get Charizard, Ash's Charizard, to just stop the tank. And it'll probably end up just destroying itself. And Team Rocket aren't very happy about this because they spent a lot of money on it.
Yeah.
But they get overruled because they just bought an extremely dangerous tank and let it just get away with quite a few like young Pokemon in there now. So, and they put into action this new plan with Charizard flying over there and getting in front of the Arbo tank, which is, by the way, heading straight towards a populated like town or city. So,
sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I forgot there was one little bit. There was a part where like it was about to crash into a mountain and get crushed, but then Togepi started using metronome, and I'm not really sure what the metronome did.
Yeah.
Because like it flashed to white, and then next thing you know, it just starts drilling through with the Arbo tank's tools. So I don't know if like Togepi used like harden on the Arbo tank to make it stronger, or did something else. I'm not really too sure what Togepi did. It's
not really brought up later either.
Yeah.
Like what Togepi did, if anything. And I can't remember if Togepi's actually used metronome before. I think it might have done, like way back in the first series, maybe. But I don't have that many recollections of Togepi actually using metronome or any attacks at all. It's usually just carried around. I can swear I remember it using explosion or something, but I might just be imagining that one.
I am going to look it up because this is going to bother me now.
Yeah, it's going to bother me as well. Togepi uses metronome.
Alright, plot.
Metronome's a really interesting move, though. It's literally just, it does anything just at random.
Okay, according to Bulbapedia, it says Togepi uses metronome to drill a hole through the mountain.
Wow.
So I guess it used maybe a Rock Smash or something like that, but...
Or it could have just used Dig.
Yeah, Dig would work too.
Dig would probably be very effective. Straight through, all the way through the mountain, makes a tunnel. And during all of this, the Sentret are keeping up as well, and just chasing after. Because there's basically like 3 different groups, I guess, all going after this tank. You have Sentret, Team Rocket, and Ash and Co. all trying to stop this thing. And now there's actual like danger to tons of people's lives because it's heading straight towards the town.
Yep.
So this is definitely a last-ditch effort from Charizard, who just flies over the mountain, plonks himself right in front of the tank, and just pushes.
Yep, and then...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then it just uses flamethrower on the glass and just melts it right away. Super easy.
It makes for a cool shot, though, I think, where just the flames cover the screen.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And Meowth gets singed as well, while everyone else is absolutely unharmed and just jumps out of the tank.
Yep, and then Team Rocket jumps into the tank because they want to try and save it before it explodes, but it explodes.
Yep, and Team Rocket blast off again.
Yeah, and then
which is still just like a weird thing.
Yeah, and then Jenny shows up and is like, "Hey, did you guys dig this tunnel?" And they're like, "Oh, kinda." And she's like, "Well, this is great because now it used to take a couple of hours just to go. People would have to drive around the mountain. Now they can go right through it, which is kind of cool. But at the same time, I'm like, have we ever really seen someone drive in the Pokemon anime?"
It happens very rarely. I can think of 2 instances, and that is Gary in the first episode of Indigo League.
Yes, Gary. I forgot about Gary.
And actually, in just the last episode, Team Rocket drove a truck for a bit of it.
Oh, okay.
So it does happen. It's just very rare that you actually see any cars or roads.
And then the only other problem I have with that is the tunnel. Yes, you now have a tunnel, but it's very narrow. Probably only a one-way tunnel. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it was actually a pretty good episode.
Yeah, like I really enjoyed this one. Especially for a filler episode as well.
Oh yeah, definitely filler.
Yeah, definitely. It held up really well and kept the tension going all the way through as well, with the tank just constantly getting away from them. It's a really good just idea for an episode, just chasing a tank, basically.
Oh yeah, it's different from like the normal everyday episode of Pokemon. They changed things up just a little bit.
They changed it up enough to make it different to just stock Pokemon of the Week episodes.
I thought a Sentret episode would involve a giant tank with an Arbok tank.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that.
No.
I don't think anyone would. So, do you have any more notes before we look at the final questions?
No, I think that's about it.
Covered pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I did want to mention that I really liked the fact that Ash and Co got to wear costumes as well for once. It's usually just Team Rocket that does that. Plus, just at the start of the episode, it's like, please just let them take the tank. And then they did it. I was just very happy when they did that.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, one thing I liked was Ash's joke about an apple a day keeps the Chansey away. I thought that was a clever little pun joke.
Plus, Chansey was only in like 2 episodes back, so it's probably just still on the writers' minds at that time. Probably why they came up with it. It's a clever little one, though. Oh, and Sentra eating that apple is like the most adorable thing.
Oh, when it just like keeps eating the apple till it's just the core. Yeah, that was adorable.
Just twists it all the way around and just numbs it.
Yep.
It's cute. Who was your standout character in this episode?
For me, it was actually Brock.
I've got the exact same one, actually.
Yeah, he came up with like both plans to try and stop the Arbo tank, and like he took kind of like a leadership role here and was like, "Hey, this is how we're going to do it." Yeah,
he really just sort of took the forefront in the episode. Honestly, I don't think they could have managed it without Onyx, because Onyx played a massive role in this stopping of the tank.
I mean, Onyx dug the first hole and they used Onyx as a ride to catch up to everything. I mean, the only other Pokemon that possibly could have been a ride was Charizard, and that would only be like one person at a time.
Yeah, just like I don't think they could have stopped the tank without Brock's just sort of, I guess, guidance in this one.
Yeah, definitely.
Plus, it was really good that there wasn't any girls for him to swoon over, so it was actually doing some Pokemon stuff for once.
Yeah. I think he started to swoon a little bit at the end when Officer Jenny showed up.
Yeah, just a little bit. But I think he earned it at that point.
Yeah.
And what was your favorite thing in the episode?
No, I got 2. Brock utilizing Onyx and just Sentret.
Yeah, Sentret was really good. And my favorite thing was just Team Rocket bragging about digging holes.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good.
It was just like, it has been a common thing just throughout the whole series is Team Rocket can dig holes exceptionally fast. I don't know how they do it, because they don't have any Pokemon that can do it, so they must be doing it themselves.
I mean, I feel like Arbok could probably dig a little.
Maybe tiny bit. Wheezing would be useless.
Oh, that was one thing. I liked how James was like, I really wish we had built a Wheezing tank in the beginning, but he's the one who built the tank in the first place, so yeah.
It's unclear if they actually built it or just straight out bought the thing.
I think it was a mixture of both. I mean, I think he bought most of the parts, but I think he built a little bit of it.
Yeah, he probably just like bought all the pieces and put them together.
Yeah.
And was this episode filler or not filler?
Oh, it was definitely filler.
Definitely. There's no Pokemon caught, no gym badges, no evolutions,
No character development.
No. Well, there's never any character development, but still.
You never know.
It was good that Brock took the forefront, but it was kind of just like he wasn't in the background for a change.
Yeah.
And what are your overall thoughts then?
Overall thoughts, I just gotta say, it was a fun episode. I haven't watched this probably since it first aired back in the day, so it was kind of fun just rewatching this. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it as well. I would go as far as to say it's one of the best filler episodes we've had so far, just because it really kept that tension going throughout. It makes me think of that film called Unstoppable. Do you know the one with the train where it just keeps going throughout the whole episode and they try and stop it?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It just kept the momentum going all the way through really well. And I just like Sentra as well.
What's not to like?
Yeah. A sign of a good filler episode is when it makes you appreciate Pokemon more than when you first watched it.
Mm-hmm.
So it really showcased Sentra as a Pokemon really well. Just all of its abilities and its features and everything. It did a really good job there. So yeah, I really like this one. And I think that's pretty much everything we have to say on it. So shall we move on to Digimon?
We shall.
We shall. So next up is Ghost of a Chance. Not to be confused with like 90% of Yu-Gi-Oh! Episodes. With this episode of Digimon, I don't know, did you see the recap of the last episode?
I did see the recap of the last episode, and I gotta be honest with you, I remember the last episode a lot more than I remember this episode.
Yeah, a lot more happened in the last one.
Yes.
I kind of got you on for an episode where not much happens, but still.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even go to the digital world at all. Like, there was no real Digimon to fight. I mean, there was almost no Digivolution at all either.
No, I've forgotten if there was actually any Digivolution in this one.
It's at the very end, and even then, they don't do anything about it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of an anomaly in the series. So, with this one, it starts off actually in what's presumed to be the TV station, with two guys just sort of editing, and the show that they're editing is called When Parakeets Attack. And I would so watch that. It just sounds good.
It does.
Oh, have you ever seen Birdemic? Have you ever watched? Not. Just look up the JonTron video on it, and you'll get the gist of why it's such a great, awful film.
Okay.
I definitely recommend it, though. It's very funny to watch, just because it's so bad.
Cool.
Anyway, they're editing, and there's this weird shadow on all of the monitors, on all the editing, like the videos that they're editing, and it's different every time they play it back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all spooky. So it cuts away from them to the Digidestined crew, the kids, whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're celebrating another victory against the Digimon Emperor because they've destroyed one of the spires. And they just want to get pizza now to celebrate.
Yeah. I like, for that scene, I like the music that was playing in the background as they were coming out of the thing. I was like, oh, cool. You guys still played that even though, we really didn't get to fully see it, but thank you.
Yeah, it's good. They do actually do decent work with the music and stuff in the background. And also, one of the suggestions for pizza is like half pepperoni, half mustard.
Half anchovies or something like that?
Oh, that was it. Half anchovies, half mustard.
Yeah. Either way, Davis isn't good with fractions, and we find out more about that in a second.
But is mustard pizza a thing? Because if it is, I don't want any part of it.
I don't want anything with anchovies to begin with, so, I mean...
It was bad enough with the anchovies, but mustard?
Yeah, no, I mean...
That's just pizza with a condiment on top, instead of toppings.
Yeah. Exactly.
And a bad condiment is just spicy. And
yeah.
It'd look awful. It'd just be yellow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah,
Davis has awful taste in pizza toppings.
Yes, he does. And then Kari and TK are like, oh, we can't. We have something going on. And Davis gets all jealous and is like, you guys going on a date? And they're like, not really, but... and like they show him the calendar, and it's literally the calendar date says 8-1, and then like right next to it says 8-1 again in handwriting. And Davis is like, you guys have a date with fractions? And they're just like, no, it's a date, like the number, August 1st. I'm just like, oh, America, why did you ruin Digimon?
Honestly, like Davis is dumb enough without these sort of jokes added in to his character.
Yeah.
But August 8th is like a big deal for Digimon fans because it's Odaiba Day, which is like
Yes,
when the series first aired or something. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's also, the day that they defeated Myotismon.
Yeah, that's what they're celebrating in the episode, alongside the Dark Spire that they must have destroyed off screen.
Yes, that.
So they all head off to the park to meet up with the last series Digidestined kids, who still play a reasonable part in this series as well.
I thought it was cool though. We finally got to see them all together.
Yeah, like we've not really had a shot of all of them on screen.
Yeah,
we've had like a group meeting of the older kids before, but not like this scale where they're all together in the same shot. It does look a bit rubbish though from the side because they just sort of speak like Muppets characters with the mouths going meh meh. It is really nice to see them all there though, and I think they all have different outfits as well to what they've had previously.
Yeah, because
they've kind of just decided if we're going to have different outfits this season, they're not going to wear the same thing all the time because it doesn't make sense when they're in the real world and have wardrobes. And would you agree that the conversation was kind of just clunky and awkward for most of it?
Yeah, I mean, they were all, it was clunky and awkward. I mean, they were talking about Myotismon and, they were talking about like what they did and whatnot. And I'm just like, really? Did you really need to? Okay.
I suppose this episode's kind of there to just, recap a bit of the stuff that happened last series for new people.
I'm gonna jump ahead, real quick. Like, there's a part where like in the beginning of the episode, like they talk about the anniversary of Myotismon, and then at the end of the episode, they're like, oh, there was this evil guy named Myotismon. I'm like, they should know who Myotismon is. Like they try to retell you who Myotismon. I'm like, you guys didn't tell him? Like, I feel like you should know.
Yeah. Davis was kidnapped by him, apparently.
Yeah. And then Yoli was on the boat that was... Oh, no. It was Cody was on the boat. Yoli was during the movie.
Yeah, and then Davis was just taken by all the Bakemonon during that whole thing. And, yeah, it's just kind of clunky because there's 13 of them on screen at the same time, and only one of them ever talks at once.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't seem natural. There's just lots of inanimate people stood there while the one person talks.
Yeah.
Just never blinking, never changing eye contact.
Yeah.
It's literally just, I've done my bit, now I'm here, and I still exist. And then from here, it's just kind of it cuts to TK and Matt doing something in their apartment.
Yeah,
block.
they go back to Matt's place with his dad, and they're just hanging out, and TK's, ragging on him for, not cleaning up and whatnot, and
yeah.
Matt's like, I've been busy with my band, Dad's been busy at work, what do you expect?
It's kind of a non-scene of anything.
Yeah, but I found it weird though, like, he's like, well, let's just get something to eat. He's like, well, I don't know what we have, and then TK's like, well, why don't I just buy us a pizza? So, no big deal. Buy you a pizza. And Matt's like, I have a better idea. And then creates a pizza. Again, I use air quotes around that because you see TK just like, oh my gosh, this is so hot. and he's like, what is this? And he goes, whatever I found, a little bit of green stuff that was growing on something in the fridge. And I'm just like, why would you do that at all?
You wouldn't, would you?
No, like, why?
Because it's funny.
Yeah, I guess.
That's what the writers were thinking.
Yeah. So then Matt and TK's dad comes home, not even surprised to see TK at all.
No, he's not like, oh, TK's here. He's just like,
hey, TK. And although to be fair, I mean, he's been having a stressful day at work. People are apparently quitting because there's a ghost at the TV station. So. And he tries to explain everything to them about it, and they just kind of shrug it off like maybe he's just going crazy.
And he kind of is. He goes on about Happy Buffalo or something.
Yes. He tries to relax by listening to buffalo sounds or whatever, and I'm just like...
Just the sound of buffalo migrating.
Which I don't think you want to hear, but okay.
It's quite impressive they managed to record that sound, though, because they have to keep up with the buffalo for several hours.
Yeah.
Unless I just took one sample and looped it, which would be very lazy. But I don't remember the dad. The dad wasn't... Yeah, the dad wasn't that loopy in the first series. If anything, he was just quite calm and collected.
Yeah.
And just kind of seemed to know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Even with all the Digimon stuff. But in this episode, he's just kind of lost his nut.
Yeah. So then there's a quick shot of Mimi, Yoli, and Sora at one of the towers that apparently got destroyed in the first series and it's now been rebuilt. And then it quickly goes back to the rest of the gang at TK and Kari's house.
Yeah, this episode just likes jumping between different groups of people as and when it feels like it.
Oh, and there's also one quick scene of Joe in school waiting for it to finish up.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that one because nothing comes of it. It's just like, here's a shot of Joe being very relatable.
Mm-hmm.
So the Digidestin kids are in Tai. I guess, I don't know if Tai and Kari still have bunk beds. They probably shouldn't at that age.
No, they shouldn't.
And they're basically discussing the fact that the school computer room is becoming the detention room. So they won't be able to go in there and use computers to get to the digital world anymore. And Izzy's just doing his old whiz kid theorizing bit to try and work out how they can open the digiport at home. And it's just like, I bet the digivices do it. And it's just like, well, yeah, cool. Do that then. And they just try it and it works. And we're very clever, Izzy. You solved it in like 2 seconds.
Yeah. But then they were going to test it by going to the digital world, but then TK's mom comes home and sees everyone choose.
Oh, Ty's mom.
Oh, Ty's. Yeah, sorry. Too many T's.
There's a lot of names to remember.
Yes, there's a lot of names to remember for this. At least in Pokemon, it's 5 names and then a bunch of Pokemon.
Yeah, instead of, what is it? Ty, Matt, Davis, Kari.
TK.
I can't even remember them all.
Odie.
I probably could list them off, but it would take 10 years.
Yeah.
So, they just kind of, for some reason, hide the Digimon from Ty and Kari's mum, even though she's aware of Digimon from the first series.
I think they just didn't want her to know that, hey, the Digimon are back, we're going on these adventures again, we don't want you to worry about us.
Yeah, I understand that bit, but I don't understand why they hide, like, all of the Digimon from them. Like, what's the reason behind that? Like, at this point, they're probably just more pets than anything. I'd just stay with them.
Yeah, true.
Although, no, I remember now. They actually got them from the digital world because they were split up. So yeah, it does make sense. The Digimon shouldn't be there. Okay, never mind. Digimon got it kind of right.
Yeah, so, and then the next scene after that, I think, like, they're all back together again, and they're walking around, and you see the storm cloud coming over the TV station, and then, like, it gets struck by lightning or whatever, and everyone starts evacuating.
It's just been going back to the TV station for most of this episode, just going like, weird stuff's happening. Which actually I kind of enjoyed, just looking back at that sort of plot thread that was dangling there. Especially since the 2 guys doing the editing and making the show are actually pretty funny, I thought. So they all rush into the TV station because it's their problem, I guess. Well, mainly it's because Gatomon runs off on her own.
Yes, Gatomon runs off on her own.
Because she has a sense, I guess.
Feline senses.
Yeah, she feels like there's something calling out to her, I think. So they all rush into there and head straight up to like the top room of the building, which is just like a pretty big empty space with one desk there.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
It's kind of a weird one, but
maybe it's like a newsroom or something like that, and that's where they film the news.
I suppose it could be. Yeah, they did like one camera looking out on big glass window set or something. Or maybe it was just all destroyed in the lightning.
Maybe.
There's many reasons for it to be a very empty room. And Gatomon's just like tries speaking to the shadow and says that she knows that it's Wizardmon, who died in the last series.
Yes, but before that, she's like, I'm here, what do you want? Because, like, the ghost is saying, Gatomon, come to me, or whatever. And she's like, I'm here. And then, like, Demi Vmon's like, she's lost her mind. We need to Digivolve. And so you get Armadillomon, Hawkmon, and Vmon, and that's the only Digivolution we get the entire episode. Yeah,
I honestly...
And then Gatomon's like, stay back, this is fine. And they all think she's going crazy, and she's really hasn't.
Yeah.
And that's when she's like, Wizardmon, I'm here. But then, like, they show the original Digijessens, like, all shocked, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, it's Wizardmon.
Yeah, because that would be pretty shocking, because Wizardmon's dead.
You
wouldn't expect it to be your dead friend, honestly.
Although, it's weird, looks like, when Digimon pass away, like, they're supposed to turn it back into Digi-Eggs, so Wizardmon, I guess, really shouldn't be a ghost anymore, so that's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think it's not really fully explained, but it's different if they die in the real world, because they can't, like, drift back to the digital world as Data or something.
Okay, yeah, okay.
It's like, you know the shot earlier in the episode of the Pumpkinmon and the Gotsumon in the window?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were both, like, supposedly killed in the real world, so they're basically gone.
Okay.
Myotismon sent them to a dungeon or something, but they're assumed dead. And I guess Wizardmon, who actually died on this TV station, somehow stuck around as a ghost or something.
Yeah.
Just in the wiring, I guess. Which kind of makes sense because they are digital creatures.
Yeah, but it took them like 4 years to finally come back or something like that.
Yeah, several years. He waited until he had plot information to give them and then returned.
Yeah.
Which I guess he just came up with it on the spot.
Yeah, I don't know how he got this kind of information, but basically he tells Gatomon you need to find the golden light or something like that to defeat your greatest enemy.
He will be defeated with kindness, something along those lines.
Yeah, and Yoli's like, oh great, does that mean we have to be nice to Ken? And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what you need to do.
It's been prophesized now, so there's no backing out of it. Honestly, Digimon does like its prophecies, so
yeah.
It's just like, this is what will happen, and then it happens.
Except for when it's in a gray world and the Digimon doesn't never shows that back up.
Well, that's not really a prophecy so much as it was like a hint that there might be something.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like foreshadowing or something. It just didn't happen.
Yeah, this was like foreshadowing down up to 11.
Yeah.
And then Wizardmon starts backing away and disappearing again because I guess they ran out of lightning.
I guess. And
Gatomon's all upset again because it's like, oh, it's Wizardmon, my friend. You remember me when I used to be a character. Seriously, Gatomon's like 90% cat puns up until this episode.
Yeah.
But now Gatomon, who used to be important and was like villain, cat, Digimon and everything, used to be cool. It's actually more important in this one. I
think it's because Gatomon lost her ringtail thing.
Yeah, that explains the power difference in this series. That's why she's not. I was
going to say it explains her personality difference.
Does it?
Maybe. That's what I'm coming up with.
I mean, she's kind of gone from sort of having her own sort of strength that she built up from being abused by Myotismon to kind of just not really doing anything except make cat jokes.
Yeah. I mean, Gatomon's the strongest one of all. She's technically a champion level Digimon.
Yeah, she is. And then they just take away the tail ring to explain why she needs to armor Digivolve in the digital world. I
guess.
So she's just not as good as she used to be, essentially. And yeah, it basically, Wizardmon goes away and they sort of explain what happened to Wizardmon last series, which was a pretty big deal when it happened. There was like a proper death in the series. Which you don't get deaths very often in kids' shows, especially.
No.
And it's all very sad because they're all just like, especially Gatomon and Kari are very teary-eyed. And Kari has flowers, which I can't remember why she got those.
Yeah, I don't know why she had flowers either. That was a little weird. Maybe they were heading to the radio station to pay their respects to Wizardmon to begin with.
I suppose that's actually a decent explanation for it.
And then just so happened that Wizardmon showed up.
Yeah, just turned up at his own memorial. As you do.
Yeah.
And that's basically where the episode ends.
Yeah.
With very little happening, just lots of exposition and little bits of details and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it.
The only thing that really kind of moved the story a little bit forward besides Wizardmon's prophecy was the fact that Izzy was like, hey, you guys can probably use the Digivices on any computer and get to the digital world.
Yeah. That's kind of like the two big things in this episode. Then the rest of it's all just flashbacks and reminiscing and where did you destined? Woo!
Yeah, there's a part where Cody was like, could you imagine if we went to the digital world while we were like at night and then our parents came to check up on us and we were gone? I'm like, doesn't the time move differently in the digital world and in the real world? So like they wouldn't know you were gone at all? Like
it used to. This is the thing, like, things change from the first series that aren't really explained. Like, you just kind of have to assume that they know what they're doing. It's like, I think at the very end of the first series, they explain that time's synced back up again because they defeated the Dark Masters. And when they go back to the real world, it'll be in sync again. So that's why it's been like a few years for both the Digimon and the kids when they meet up again in this series.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I'll believe it.
Yeah. Basically, you've shown that this episode, as an exposition episode, is still pretty rubbish. because it doesn't explain some of the stuff from the last series that's happened.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even do its one job that well. So, do you have any more notes you want to go over?
No, not besides the basic question stuff.
So, who's your standout character?
This one was kind of hard to pick, but I went with Gatomon.
Mm-hmm.
Near the end, I mean, she was kind of brave. It was like, hey, stay back. I got this ghost. I know it's Wizardmon. That's about it, honestly. I mean, it was kind of hard to pick one. She was the best out of the worst, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
Yeah. For me, the character that stood out most ended up being Matt's dad because he was just that bizarre.
I'm a happy little buffalo.
It was just really weird. It's like he just came home and just explained like weird stuff's going on. It's like you see stuff in the corner of your eye.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like he just sounded like he was going insane.
He kind of was.
Yeah, I mean, insane with stress.
Yeah.
And with being haunted at work. But yeah, he just stood out to me because it was just really weird. Also, the shot with him and then TK and Matt just sat at the table looks really weird because he looks like a giant just because of the height difference.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense, but he still just looks like he's like 5 feet too tall as a result. But yeah, Matt's dad and Gatomon. Different reasons, but still they both stood out in their own way.
Yeah, definitely.
And what was your favourite thing in this one?
Honestly, just seeing every Digi-Justin together.
Yeah, that is actually a pretty cool thing, because you don't get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was actually one shot that I really liked, where they were all gathered under that tree.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just reminded me of an episode in the first series with Leomon and the original kids. So it's kind of like come full circle where now the original kids are taking Leomon's role, and then there's the new kids learning from them. So that's cool. I don't know if that was intentional, but it was pretty nice. And this next one's going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's filler or not filler?
I said not filler.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
I'd like to hear your reasoning.
Because of two things, and it's kind of what we talked about. It showed Izzy coming up with the way of, you can use any computer to get to the digital world, and of Wizardmon's prophecy, basically, which kind of leads. I mean, most of it was kind of filler, but like those 2 points there were kind of not filler, and those kind of lead up to something eventually.
Yeah. I do agree with you there. I do think that it isn't a filler episode because it does set up a lot of, I guess, like foundation information for future episodes with the prophecy and the being able to travel to the digital world from other computers.
Mm-hmm. I will say this, it's a very boring, not filler episode.
Yeah. It's not one that you'd want to watch again. It doesn't stand up well on its own.
No.
It just it's basically a building blocks episode for the next few ones, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
But what are your overall thoughts then?
Like I said, it was kind of a boring episode. I mean, for the most part, it had a few funny moments with like Matt's and TK's dad. And then other than that, I was kind of just like,
Yeah. It's a very strange episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's lots of just people sitting around and talking to each other and very little actual like action or movement. It kind of just took its time, slowly went through the motions, and then reached its big reveal at the end.
Yeah. And at the end, it was like last 4 or 3 minutes.
Yeah. So it's kind of just 15 minutes of these two threads building up to that end, just like the TV station and the kids reminiscing, which all just leads up to the thing with Wizardmon there at the end.
Yeah.
I definitely preferred the plot thread in the TV station, though, just with the two guys freaking out. Because that was much more entertaining than just seeing the kids reminisce and just go, remember when we did the thing?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I was there when we did the thing too. Do you remember that? And that was basically what the kids did for most of it. So it was pretty boring. It's not one I'm going to watch again anytime soon.
Oh yeah, no.
Think. But hopefully it'll pay off in the future with the whole stuff with the Digimon Emperor and defeating him. I hope it comes up again. If it doesn't, then I'll be kind of disappointed. But with that, do you want to move on to the last section?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's move on. Now it's time for Mono a Mono, where we attempt, important word there, attempt to compare these episodes. So, who is your monster of the week?
Does the Arbo tank count?
Ooh, I'm going to say yes, you can count it.
Yes, then the Arbo tank, because that thing was kind of cool. I mean, it had all these cool gadgets. Besides the springboard, everything about it was really cool.
It was pretty awesome. Like, its mouth can release both missiles and drill into things.
It also had a fireworks feature, was kind of weird, but okay. Maybe Team Rocket wanted to celebrate afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah.
He probably just bought anything that was on sale in the catalogue and just put it in there. I bet it has a bubble bath. I think it should have a bubble bath.
It should. I don't see why not.
It has fireworks. Why not a bubble bath?
Yeah.
Just a nice jacuzzi while
so
you're robbing people of the Pokemon. One thing it was missing was the grabby arms that comes with most Team Rocket inventions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and nets. It needed nets.
Yeah, nets. Well, it might have had nets. We just never got to see it use it.
True. Oh, well, we'll never know now just what the Arbo tank was capable of.
Yeah. So, what about you?
I picked Sentret because it just kind of, it stood out really well throughout the whole episode, especially with there being more than one of them. So there was actually some differentiation. It's a long word. There was some unique qualities to them. So like there was the young one in the tank and the older one looking after them.
Mm-hmm.
The one that was crying out the siren, which I think was the mother, like the older one again. But the Sentret just did lots of cool things throughout the whole episode, like stand on its tail, and
yeah,
they did a good job of showing off Sentret without it just being, here, look at Sentret. Which is what it usually does. It's just like, here's trainer tells you about Pokemon. Instead, the Sentret just showed off its own abilities naturally through the episode.
Yeah, which was really cool.
Yeah, it was. Like, there was a reason for everything it did. Which is really good. Very impressive. And next question. Who was worse, Ash or Davis?
Davis.
Yep. It's pretty easy, that one.
Beginning of the episode with the whole fractions and the whole getting jealous of Kari and TK just hanging out. Like, really, dude? Really?
Yeah. He did like pretty much nothing except make bad jokes and be quite creepy around Kari.
Yeah.
He's just too possessive of her.
He needs to ease back a little bit.
He needs to ease back a lot.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Like,
I was trying to be nice, but yes, he needs to ease way back.
Yeah, he needs to learn that Kari is not just some girl for him to own, which seems to be the mindset he has. It's just like, Kari's mine.
Mm-hmm.
Back off, TJ. Because it's just not a likable quality at all.
No.
So until he stops doing that, he's going to get voted down a lot. So I don't know what the Digimon writers think they're doing with that whole thing. They probably think it's funny, but
it's really not. You're teaching young boys that women are possessions. It's not okay.
Yeah, and they're saying that it's funny as well to act like you're a woman. So yeah, really, really not good.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely Davis was worse because Ash actually contributed and helped and did more than just layer over women.
Yeah.
But which storyline did you prefer? And why was it Pokemon?
For sure.
Definitely Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like Digimon, it tried something with the whole going back and forth between different places or leading to one thing. But it was very boring.
There was just no action.
Yeah, there was nothing happening. It was just all discussion. He says while recording a podcast.
Well, I mean, I don't really know if there's any way to include action into a podcast.
We could do background music.
Well, okay, let me rephrase that, because my last April Fool's Day episode, when we did the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, I made a whole skit thing with a bunch of action noises and stuff like that, so ignore me.
Yeah, you can incorporate like sound effects and stuff to liven it up.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot of talking.
Exactly.
That's basically what Digimon was this time. Whereas Pokemon, it was just a driving force throughout the whole thing. It's really good. So, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that Pokemon was way, way more enjoyable and engaging.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But I don't know how you'll approach this, but were there any notable similarities between the episodes that you can think of?
Yes, there's one I can think of. Both had technical issues. The Arbo tank went on its own thing, basically, so they were having technical issues with that, and then there was technical issues in the radio station with the videos and a little bit of sound and stuff like that. Oh, yeah,
it's like that sort of common trend of things just not working.
Exactly.
Oh, nice. And the only one I could actually come up with was that both of the episodes kind of just kept building up until it reached the finale at the end of the episode where it crescendoed and then just finished. So it kind of a similar structure of just building and building and building towards the end. Digimon's was a much slower build.
Yes.
But yeah, they both kind of just went for that same structure of lead towards the end. And were there any notable differences that you especially want to mention?
No. I mean, I think they were both very different. I mean, as far as, just one had some good action and planning and stuff like that, and the other one was just talk.
Yeah, they were paced quite differently. Like Digimon was much, much slower.
Yes.
Whereas Pokemon was just non-stop, next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Digimon was quite just sort of relaxed. It's a very lazy episode, just sort of kids hanging out.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more like, I guess, a background episode is one that you don't need to focus on that much because not much happens. Pokemon, I could see you getting lost if you like looked away for a minute or something. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it. Is Digimon just kind of took its time. It's very lazy.
Yeah.
Sort of laid back. And Pokemon just really put the effort in to build up the tension and the excitement with the episode. Yeah, Digimon it was kind of bogged down, I guess, with all the exposition and the information it was trying to give the viewers.
Yeah.
And it didn't do a great job of it.
It's almost like they were like, hey, just in case you never watched the first series, here's a quick little recap of everything. Yeah,
which they kind of just disguised as the kids celebrating things.
Mm-hmm.
But it is essentially just exposition, the episode. With here's a teaser for what's happening next at the end.
Yeah.
And so, at the end of it all, which episode do you think deserves the point?
Well, I don't want you to think I'm playing favoritism because I have a Pokemon podcast, but because I was kind of hoping I would be able to pick Digimon because I do like Digimon. I didn't want to show favoritism, but it was just so boring. I have to pick Pokemon.
Yeah, I also had to pick Pokemon. I mean, bias doesn't really come into it when Pokemon was just all around more enjoyable and more fun.
Yeah, and it had Centrets, so I mean...
Yeah, there's no squirrels to be seen in Digimon. And I'm still not sold on whether Centret is a squirrel or a raccoon. It could go either way.
It's more of a raccoon, but then it evolves into a ferret, so I mean...
So, you could argue it could be anything.
Yeah, it's a rodent. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it's a very good rodent. That's what it is.
Yes.
But yeah, the reasons are pretty obvious. Just Pokemon was more fun and it had the effort put into it to make sure it was actually engaging. Whereas Digimon, it's kind of just the writers wrote down what they needed to tell you. And then when they ran out of things to tell us, they just filled it in with like jokes and the kids hanging out.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pokemon gets the point. For like the 5th episode in the row, actually.
Wow.
So that makes the score 11-6 to Pokemon. Wow, it's got a proper streak going now because it's been doing actually good filler episodes. Whereas Digimon's been not doing that. And so, yeah, we can go into the outro now.
All right.
Next time, I'll be discussing the 18th episodes, Run, Yoli, Run, and Charizard's Burning Ambitions. And so if you want to get in touch, just tweet at us, email at us, or jump in our Discord to chat at us. And of course, massive thank you to Kyle for joining me today. Where can the people find you?
Well, you guys can find me on Twitter at my personal account at Deadpool_Ranger. I basically talk about a lot of comic book stuff, Power Ranger stuff, Pokemon stuff, just all around nerdum stuff. And then you can find my podcast on Twitter at Victory Road Pod, and you can find us on almost any podcast station that you listen to. We actually just ended up on Spotify, so that's really cool. iTunes, Google Play Music, all that stuff. You can find us anywhere. Yeah, I'd definitely recommend giving it a listen because I was very impressed by it with the episode I got to listen to. Yeah, we'll definitely have to have you on our show someday soon. Oh yeah, I'm totally up for it. All the links are in the show notes, including the Mondcast Patreon. Massive thank you to all the patrons on there, of course. It's only $3 a month, and you get some cool stuff. Massive thank you to Kyle again. And until next time, bye-bye. Bye. See ya. What I wanna be ya.